Doctor Who is coming to Magic the Gathering in 4 brand new Commander pre-constructed decks. Each of these decks are composed of brand new cards and reprints all set in the Doctor Who universe. Wizards of the Coast is previewing all 4 Commander decks over this week, and today we finally got the full deck list of the Timey-Wimey Commander Precon deck. So I'll be covering all the cards that were previewed today, including the full deck list of the Timey-Wimey Precon deck. But before we begin, 2 quick reminders. First, you can find all the Doctor Who preview cards over at mtgpreviews.com, and secondly, you can pre-order all these sweet new Commander pre-constructed decks over at our sponsor, cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish. Alright, we begin with one of the cutest but sinister cards in the entire set. This is Adipose Offspring. This is a 4-mana white 2/2 creature alien with adorable art, but a very sinister keyword, emerge 6. So 5 and a white. You may cast a spell by sacrificing a creature and paying the emerge cost reduced by that creature's mana value. When Adipose Offspring enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 white alien creature token. If Adipose Offspring's emerge cost was paid, instead create X of those tokens, where X is a sacrificed creature's toughness. So without knowing the lore, I assume these cute, cuddly-looking aliens are actually being birthed out of poor victims very unwillingly, which is morbid, but also hilarious. So yeah, ability-wise, it doesn't seem very good to hardcast, but if you're emerging it out of a big creature, you can make a bunch of 2/2 creatures. I don't think this card is particularly very strong. We have this in enchantment form that's repeatable, like Feed the Pack, so we just have better versions of this. Maybe if there was alien synergies, this card gets better, but I don't think we have that much alien support just yet. It's cute though. Next up, we have Jenny, Generated Anomaly. This is a legendary Boros creature. It's 4 mana for a 2/3 legendary creature Time Lord Soldier. It has double strike, and whenever Jenny deals combat damage to a player, it explores. And what explore is reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand if it's a land, otherwise put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, then put the card back or put it into your graveyard. So this can generate actually some card advantage. Each time you're dealing damage, and it has double strike, so this is 2 triggers all by itself. Each time it deals combat damage, you can put basically 2 lanes into your hand, or you could put +1/+1 counters on Jenny, and the double strike doubles up the value of those +1/+1 counters. So it's immediately hitting for 4 damage, but as soon as you get 1 counter on it, that's 2 extra damage each time. So it grows into a serious threat while also putting lands into your hand, or just filling your graveyard full of stuff that you can later recur. So this is a good value engine. It's still on the weaker side, I think, for 4 mana. It doesn't have any sort of evasion or anything, but it's a solid card. Next up, we have Wilfred Mott. This is a 4-mana white 2/4 legendary creature human soldier, and it has Look to the Stars. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter on Wilfred Mott. Then look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of time counters on Wilfred. You may put a non-land permanent card with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is a pretty decent card advantage and mana advantage engine that just sits around generating more and more value over time. You really want to add extra time counters on it to really ensure that you're always going to be hitting something off it with Wilfred. So if you can proliferate it or just do time travel with it, then it gets a lot better. It's nothing crazy or anything, but it is a solid piece of card advantage and mana advantage in like a time travel deck or a proliferate deck. Next up, we have the Moment. This is a 2-mana colorless legendary artifact. This says at the beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter on the Moment. Then you can pay 2 and tap it. Untap target creature you control. It phases out until the Moment leaves the battlefield. Or you can pay 3 mana and tap it. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value less than or equal to the number of time counters on the Moment. Then sacrifice the Moment. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is a cute way of protecting your own creatures from removal or board wipes, or like target removal or board wipes. It can slowly but surely protect them, and then eventually you crack the Moment and they all re-enter the battlefield. I don't think this card is very good. There are better options to protect your own creatures or phase them out for whatever reason, but it is cute. And that's fine, I guess. Moving on, we have Flatline. This is a 3-mana blue instant that says creatures your opponents control have base power and toughness 0/1 until end of turn. Another card that I don't think is very good, we've had better versions of this that also remove like all abilities from the creatures until end of turn 2, and I think that's far more important. I think the best version of this has like Split Second. It's a black one that's I think 4 mana, and like all creatures an opponent controls are 0/1s with no abilities, and the Split Second really avoids any sort of shenanigans. This version is just not that great, I don't think. Moving on, we have Iraxa, Empress of Mars. This is a 4-mana red 5/4 legendary creature alien warrior. It has Trample and Battle Cry. Whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn, and it has Paradox. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, create a 2/2 red alien warrior creature token. So Paradox is a new keyword that you can find in this pre-constructed deck, and it cares about casting stuff from anywhere other than your hand. 9 times out of 10 for this precon, it's basically casting from exile. So you want to suspend cards from your hand. They go into the exile zone with time counters. Once you remove the final time counter, you get to cast that spell from exile for free. And then Paradox rewards you for doing that. It gives you extra value whenever you're casting stuff from exile 9 times out of 10. Also works really well with Cascade and other sort of shenanigans. Flashback as well is casting from the graveyard, so that also triggers Paradox. So there's a lot of ways of triggering Paradox, and it's just a cute engine in multiple decks, I would say. Is this a good enough payoff for all of that? Maybe. I mean, it puts a lot of creatures on the battlefield. It has Trample, it has Battle Cry. I can see it be actually kind of good in like Faldorn decks. That deck likes to go wide while casting stuff from exile. So giving it Battle Cry and stuff and adding more creatures onto the battlefield with Iraxa is actually pretty decent. Moving on, we have Frostfair Lurefish. This is a 7-mana, 7/7 Izzet creature fish, and it says when Frostfair Lurefish enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 blue fish creature tokens and 2 tapped treasure tokens. Fish you control have haste and can't be blocked by humans. And then it has a foretell cost of 5 mana, 3, a blue, and a red. And what foretell means is you can pay 2 mana and put this face down in exile. And then on a later turn, you can actually cast it from exile by paying the foretell cost of 3, a blue, and a red. So it's still going to be 7 mana total, but if you're willing to put it in exile and then cast it on a later turn, you can chop up the total cost. So you can pay 2 mana on one turn and then cast it for 5 mana the next turn. But most importantly, this triggers all the, Paradox stuff and casting from exile stuff, casting not from your hand sort of stuff. Which is nice. It works well with the theme. Is this card good? Still probably not. I mean, giving your fish control haste and can't be blocked by humans. Humans is the most popular common creature type in Magic the Gathering. That's a nice sort of pseudo unblockable for a lot of decks. Giving yourself haste is kind of nice. But overall, this is just too much mana, I think. All right, moving on, we have Rotating Fireplace. This is a 3-mana colorless artifact that says Rotating Fireplace enters the battlefield tapped with a time counter on it, and you can tap it to add an amount of colorless mana equal to the number of time counters on Rotating Fireplace. So by itself, it only taps for 1 mana. However, it has another ability. You can pay 4 and tap it to time travel, activate only as a sorcery. And what time travel is, it's a brand new mechanic to the set, and it says for each suspended card you own and each permanent you control with a time counter on it, you may add or remove a time counter. And this is basically what the entire deck is about, Timey-Wimey. It's all about casting stuff with suspend, so stuff in exile with time counters on it. You can remove time counters to cast those spells earlier on, and then also you have permanents with vanishing. And vanishing means when you remove a time counter from it, if it's the last counter that's removed, you sacrifice a permanent. So they only last a certain number of turns, equal to their vanishing number, but you can add more time counters on it to have them last longer. So Rotating Fireplace makes a lot of sense in terms of a mana rock that kind of helps with the deck's theme. It's very expensive to time travel. It's basically 5 mana investment to time travel, but still it's worth it later on in the game when you have too much mana and not enough stuff to do with it. And also works very well with Proliferate. If you can add more time counters onto the Rotating Fireplace, either with time travel, which, rotating fireplace could even do to itself, but other cards will do as well, or proliferate, which just add another counter of the same kind to it. Those work really well and you can start tapping for way more than just 1 mana. It's pretty slow and very fair, but it fits perfectly with the theme of the deck. I probably wouldn't put it in other decks, maybe a proliferate deck, because it's so easy to add additional counters to it and then allow it to tap for more than just 1 mana. Very fair, very fun, seems good. Next up, we have Impending Flux. This is a 3-mana red sorcery with Paradox. Impending Flux deals X damage to each opponent and each creature they control, where X is 1 plus the number of spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand this turn, and has Foretell of 1, a red, and a red. So you can immediately cast this for 3 mana and deal at least 1 damage to each of your opponent's creatures, or you can foretell it and then cast it later, and then you're dealing at least 2 damage to each of your opponent's creatures. It's not super powerful, but I think this card in the right deck, like a cast from exile deck essentially, like Prosper, for example, might really like this actually, because you're going to be chaining together so many spells from exile that you can just make this into a one-sided board wipe, which is actually very, very sweet. So yeah, this actually has a lot of potential in Prosper, Faladorn, and of course, the time travel decks. Next up, we have Quantum Misalignment. This is a 5-mana blue sorcery that says create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it isn't legendary, and then has Rebound. If you cast a spell from your hand, exile it as it resolves. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast this card from exile without paying its mana cost. So this is a 5-mana clone, which is a lot, but it can target legendary creatures, which is nice. Generally speaking, you have to spend 4 mana to copy a legendary creature, make a token out of it. But it has Rebound, so you can actually get double the value out of it over another turn. And you get to cast it from exile. Rebound works with the Paradox stuff and Exile Matters stuff, so it works really well with the deck itself. Moving on, we have Danny Pink. This is a 4-mana blue 4/3 legendary creature, human soldier advisor, and it has Mentor. Whenever this creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature with a lesser power. And creatures you control have, whenever 1 or more counters are put on this creature for the first time each turn, you draw a card. So, in a go-wide deck, if you're putting counters on all your creatures, and there's a lot of ways of putting just a bunch of +1/+1 counters on all your creatures, you can draw a lot of cards per turn cycle with Danny Pink. That's actually really powerful in the right deck. In a deck that can just load up with counters, maybe proliferate, then that's going to be a quite powerful thing to add to your deck. It's pretty more restrictive if it's your commander. I think it's going to fit better in an Attraction +1/+1 counter deck, or maybe Kumena, for example, that deals with adding counters to all your merfolk. This can be a non-merfolk that can draw you cards while you're doing your thing. But yeah, this card is actually pretty gas, but I think it's going to be especially good in the 99. Moving on, we have Bill Potts. This is a 4-mana red 2/4 legendary creature human, and it says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Bill Potts, or activate an ability that only targets Bill Potts, copy that spell or ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability triggers only once each turn. So it's kind of like a mini Zada. Not really a mini Zada, but I love Zada, so I immediately thought of Zada. It's also a 4-mana red creature. And it also has Doctor's Companion. So you can have this in your command zone and a Doctor legendary creature in the command zone. So if you have the Doctor, one of the Doctors, there's 15 of them in the set, I think, because there's 13 plus the War Doctor plus the Fugitive Doctor. If you have any of those, you can have also Bill Potts also in the command zone as its companion, which is cool. Then we've got Psychic Paper. This is a 2-mana colorless artifact equipment. As Psychic Paper becomes attached to a creature, choose a creature card name and a creature type. A creature has Ward 1, it can't be blocked, and its name and creature type are the last chosen name and creature type, and has equipped 2. So in the context of this deck, it allows your creatures that need to attack more efficiently. It gives a little bit of protection, not too much. And if your cards care about, for example, the Doctor, then you can make other cards the Doctor on the table and activate those Doctor Matters cards too. Outside of that, it might be useful in some other decks. But it's kind of like a mini sort of arcane adaptation, kind of turns your non-typal creatures into the right type. So that could be kind of useful. It's not super strong, but I do like the fact that it gives stuff unblockable. I think that's a really nice thing to add on top of everything else is trying to do. Moving on, we have Dan Lewis. This is a 2-mana red 2/2 legendary creature human, and it says each non-creature, non-equipment artifact you control is an equipment with equip 1, and equipped creature gets +1/+0 in addition to its other types. And it has Doctor's Companion, so you can have 2 commanders if the other is the Doctor. So this is basically a Bludgeon Brawl that you can have in your command zone. It's a mini Bludgeon Brawl. It's not going to give as big of a boost, but it is pretty sweet, and it only has equip 1, so it is cheaper to equip usually. So yeah, seems pretty cool. It's a really neat thing to have in the command zone. Having Bludgeon Brawl in the command zone is actually quite sweet. I could see myself building a deck around this with like a compatible Doctor. Moving on, we have Memory Worm. This is a 2-mana red 1/1 creature alien worm, and it has Paradox. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, Memory Worm deals 2 damage to target player. That player discards a card, then draws a card. Put a +1/+1 counter on Memory Worm. So, another little Paradox, Exile Matters payoff card. It deals 2 damage, and then it kind of helps them a little bit because it allows them to rummage. If you target another player, but if you desperately need to rummage, you can take the damage yourself, discard that extra land that you don't need, and try to find some gas. And it also grows in the process. It's not super powerful. It's kind of meh, I would say. But if you're doing a lot of casting from exile, then I guess you could just start burning out your opponents. So that's kind of sweet. Next, we have Become the Pilot, and it looks like this person doesn't really want to be the pilot. This is a 5-mana blue enchantment aura, and it says enchant non-commander creature, cowards. You control enchanted creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and can't be blocked unless it's attacking its owner or a permanent its owner controls. So this is a super mild version of control magic. You can't grab commanders, which I think is blech, whatever though. But it does have pseudo unblockable as long as you're not attacking your the person's owner with the creature, which whatever. I guess it probably makes lore reasons or whatever, but I wish it just let you take any creature and attack anybody for 5 mana, because you don't even see control magic played anymore. Like I don't remember the last time I've seen a control magic being played. Like I run it in blue aura decks because it has aura synergies, but like I don't know, control magic just is not that popular, not that good enough anymore, and this is like a even melody version of it. I don't like that it excludes commanders. Like I get it, but like I don't like it. Anyway, moving on, Wreck and Rebuild. This is a 3-mana Gruul sorcery that says choose one. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, or mill 5 cards, then you may put a land card from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. And it has flashback of 5 mana, a 3, a red, and a green. This card's not very good. I like the flexibility here. Like you can self-mill, and this is good for like a flashback deck. I think the Ingenious Doctor, or what was it? I forget which. It was one of the doctors that didn't have a number to it, but she's Gruul and cares about flashback and clues, I think? Something like that. So obviously there's like a flashback deck out of here in Gruul, and this makes a lot of sense there. Otherwise, I don't think I'd run it. Next, we have Confession Dial. This is a 3-mana colorless artifact that says, when Confession Dial enters the battlefield, surveil 3, and then you can tap it. Target legendary creature card in your graveyard gains escape until end of turn. The escape cost is equal to its mana cost, plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. So this is basically Underworld Breach at home, which is still actually pretty decent, I think. Like, this is a colorless way of reanimating legendary creatures, and that can be kind of good in colors that normally don't able to do that, like red, for example. I mean, Underworld Breach is red, but otherwise you normally can't just reanimate your creatures in red that easily. They can only get like artifacts and like instants and sorceries a little bit, so that's kind of neat. So Legendary Matters, reanimation, very fair. A little bit of surveil 3 as soon as it enters the battlefield, which is nice. Yeah, I like this card. It's actually neat. It's actually pretty sweet. I like it. It's cool. Next, we have an extra turn spell. Ooh la la. This is Twice Upon a Time, which is a very cute name. It's a 6 mana blue sorcery that has adventure. So the adventure side is Unlikely Meeting. You could pay 3 mana for this blue sorcery adventure that says, search your library for a doctor card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And then the other side, the sorcery side, can only be cast if you control 2 or more doctors. You take an extra turn after this one, and then you exile Twice Upon a Time. So this card is good and also kind of bad. So 3 mana to tutor up a doctor is kind of overcosted these days if you think about it. Like, you have to pay 3 mana, you search your library for a doctor card, and then you still have to cast a doctor. And generally speaking, if you compare that to like some of the best tutors in the format, like Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, that's 1 mana, 2 mana, and has all that flexibility. Idyllic Tutor is something that I'm kind of about these days. It's 3 mana, you can find any enchantment. So 3 mana just to find a doctor card, which is a very narrow range of cards, let's keep in mind. It's kind of meh, but it does have another side, which you can take an extra turn spell if you control 2 or more doctors. So this is obviously very good for a doctor deck, and it's also playable in a changeling deck because changelings are doctors, and they fulfill both the sides here. So you can tutor up a changeling with the adventure side, and you can also take it an extra turn if you have 2 changelings on the battlefield. My only problem with this card is that, let's say you pay the 3 mana for an adventure, you get a changeling or you get a doctor or whatever, then everybody sees that you have an extra turn spell in exile on an adventure, and everybody's going to be gunning for you. People hate extra turn spells in casual Commander. You will be arch enemy number 1, even if the extra turn spell isn't that good. And 6 mana for an extra turn spell honestly isn't that good. I mean, we have like 5 mana extra turn spells, and people hardly play it outside of extra turn decks, like Narset or whatever. So 6 mana for extra turn spell is kind of meh outside of certain decks. The restriction it means it's only in changelings and doctors. And honestly, if you do the adventure side and you find a doctor, and then either you cast a doctor or whatever, or you don't, then just like passing and letting everybody see your extra turn spell before you cast it the next turn, everybody's going to take out your doctors, like nobody's going to let you take an extra turn after that, so they're going to take out your doctors, and you're going to just feel really sad about it. So I feel like this card is kind of like a trap in terms of like, it looks good, it looks powerful, but it's kind of overcosted on both sides that it's not going to be that powerful, I don't think. And people have been, tagging me as they usually do, being like, oh, this is a new staple in my changeling deck. And honestly, I'm not going to run it. Like, for finding a changeling, I can do that with 1 mana for like with Cataran Summons, for example. So much better versions of that adventure. And then taking an extra turn spell, I don't want to spend 6 mana to take an extra turn spell, especially one that's telegraphed if I use the adventure side first. If I am spending 6 mana, I'm doing Notorious Throng, because then I get an army of fairy tokens and I can close out the game on my extra turn. So yeah, this card's good. It's very exciting. It's splashy, but I don't think it's like great. And I think it's kind of a trap because your opponents are going to probably hate on you a lot if you cast it and don't immediately take an extra turn, So just something to keep in mind. Moving on, we have Kate Stewart. This is a 4 mana Jeskai 3/3 legendary creature, human scientist, and whenever you put 1 or more time counters on a permanent you control, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. And whenever Kate Stewart attacks, you may pay 8 mana. That's a lot of mana. If you do, attacking creatures get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of time counters among permanents you control. So in this deck, there's a lot of permanents with vanishing on them. They come with X amount of time counters equal to the specified vanishing number. And then you can, every single turn, you remove a time counter. When you remove the last one, you sacrifice a permanent. So they only last a certain amount of time. So time travel, though, allows you to put additional time counters on your permanents. So if you're doing a bunch of Timey-Wimey stuff like this deck wants to be doing, then you can make a bunch of soldier tokens passively with Kate Stewart on the battlefield, and then she acts as a kind of a win condition as well. If you have enough mana and you have a bunch of creatures, you can swing for lethal, dump that 8 mana, bada bing, bada boom, and then start killing people. And oh my god, look at the lens flare over here. Sorry, folks. It's very bright. It's very bright in my room. And the curtains are like, it's fully blocked. It's as blocked as I possibly humanly can do it. Actually, wait a minute. Let me move it. I see there's like a sun ray. There we go. I'm going to have to keep moving it. I'm going to have to keep moving my my camera, but I'm moving it out of the sun ray that's peeking out through my blinds that I have no power over. All right. Where were we? Well, there's a sun ray in the back. There's a lens flare in Kate Stewart. There's a lens flare coming in my office as the sun moves across the horizon. It's poetic in a way. I don't know. Let's keep moving on. It's really hot in here. Judoon Enforcers. It's 7 mana for a Boros 8/8 creature alien Reiner soldier. Ooh, I like that creature combination. It has trample, and no more than one creature can attack you each combat, and it has to spend 6 for just a 1, a red, and a white. So rather than cast this card from your hand for 7 mana, you can just pay 3 mana, exile it with 6 time counters on it, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter. When the last is removed, cast it without paying its mana cost. It has haste. So this is what all Timey-Wimey is about. It's all about vanishing permanents, and also about suspending cards from your hand and casting them from exile. 6 turns is a lot, but keep in mind there's a lot of time travel cards that remove time counters from stuff from exile or add time counters, and that allows you to cast this much faster than just waiting 6 turns. If you cast it just waiting 6 turns, this card is trash because sometimes the game is going to be over before they show up. But if you can remove those counters and speed up the process, then it gets a lot better. It's actually not too bad. Not a really good card, I would say, even in the best of times, but in the Timey-Wimey deck, it's definitely playable. So those are all the brand new cards that you're going to find in Timey-Wimey and just like throughout the set. And then we have a whole bunch of reprints that you can find in the Timey-Wimey deck list. So I'm just going to go over them very quickly. I'm going to quickly mention if I think it's like a high price reprint. These are going to be all the Doctor Who artwork, so we don't have like the prices associated with those versions yet, but like, you know, I play a lot of Commander, so I know basically what are the more expensive cards, I think. We'll find out. Let me know in the comment section if I miss an expensive card. Shout it out in the comment section, please. So we got Clock Spinning. Makes a lot of sense with a Timey-Wimey deck. You know, it can remove time counters from stuff. Or add them if it's vanishing. Command Tower is nice. Deserted Beach is nice. Evolving Wilds is meh, but it has cool art. Fractured Identity is always fun politically. Frostboros Snarl, Fury Karm Snarl. I like these cards just because they annoy Seth so much. I think they're honestly really good in 2-color decks. They get a lot worse the higher colors combinations you go for, but they're much better than tap lands. They're much better than temples, I would say. Anyway, Glacial Fortress is a really good card. Inspiring Refrain, really good in this deck for card draw. Irrigated Farmland is okay. Myriad Landscape's okay. Mystic Monastery is good. Out of Time, quite good. This is like a really great board wipe that I think is underrated still in Commander. It ruins people's days because it just phases out things kind of permanently. Like if you have 10 creatures on the battlefield, Out of Time just phases them all out, and basically nobody's going to get those creatures back until you actually remove the enchantment. So it's really good against Commanders in particular. Port Town is solid. Prairie Stream is solid. Rogue's Passage, also solid. Skycloud Expanse, good. Stormcloud Coast, Sundown Pass, Temple of Alignment, these are all fine reprints. Temple of Epiphany is fine. Temple of Osgod, I don't know why you keep putting it in green outside of green decks, but I guess it's here. Cool art, I guess. Temple of Triumph is fine. Thespian Stage is fine. Thought Vessel is cool. Thriving Bluff. I thought maybe there would be all the Thriving cycle in the Jeskai Thriving lands here, but it's only this one, just the one. Don't know why it's here, but okay. War Room is good. Mind Stone is solid. Sol Ring, cool new art. Exotic Orchard, Path of Ancestry. Talisman of Creativity, rocking the 3D sunglasses. I love it. We have Talisman of Conviction, Arcane Signet, Wedding Ring, Sunbaked Canyon, Fiery Islet. Okay, so these two, Sunbaked Canyon and the Islet, I don't know how to say that word. I think they're kind of expensive in terms of lands that haven't been reprinted in a while. I think so. So let me know in the comment section. And there you go. That's the full deck list for Timey-Wimey and a bunch of other cards that they also preview today. Be sure to like and subscribe because I'm going to be back covering the other 3 remaining decks as they're being previewed over the rest of the week. And then also the special collector booster alternate art treatments for all these cards. There's going to be very fancy versions of everything coming up for the collector booster versions. And I think they're also going to be showcasing the secret layers that are tied into Doctor Who as well too. I'm going to cover all those cards and whatever else they throw at us over the week. So be sure to like and subscribe and check back tomorrow because I'm going to be doing videos every single day until the full thing is covered. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to go edit this. Until next time, friends. See ya.